Oh, there we go. Woo! Thank you, thank you. How you guys doing out there? Are you feeling well? Cool. So the subject today is how to create a perfect presentation. Who has ever seen a presentation in their life? Who has seen a bad presentation in their life? Who has ever sat in the audience and thought, I could do better than that? Today, in the next 20 minutes, I will give you the tools how to create a perfect presentation. How does that sound? Okay, awesome. So the first thing you need to understand is less is more. The reason why I'm here, the reason why we're all here, why we rented this space, why we rented this, all the equipment, we brought you guys in here, you took vacation off for your life and all of that things, is because we are here, So the reason for this to exist is to support what I'm saying and what I'm doing. It's not to exist as a kind of solid or self-contained thing, because that's email or ebook or audiobook. Okay, so we need to understand the reason for a presentation, why it exists. It's supporting what I'm doing here. I'm the interesting part, okay? And as you probably noticed throughout the week or weekend, whenever I put something on the screen, where does your attention go? To the screen. This one is much more powerful, even though I am and all the speakers here are very engaging. If something happens on the screen, we automatically shift to that. It's a very built-in neurological reaction in our brain. We can't really help it. That's just how it works. How many dots? Raise your hand when you count them. Okay? 11. How long did it take? 3, 4, 5 seconds? Something like that? Raise your hand when you counted these. Okay, how long did that take? 1 second, okay, that was right. How about these? Okay, how long was that? About 1.5 seconds? There's a conversation been going on for years and years about the appropriate amount of information per slide. And it's been 6 things and 6 words forever, but I think our brain has evolved. Do you feel like elevated and evolved people? I think you're smart people. So we can handle 7, but that's about it. If it goes over that, we have to kind of calculate and think, try to put things into order. And it's been researched that we can keep 7 things in the short term and the long term, like the access memory that we're using day to day. So that's about 7. So don't put more than 7 things in your presentation. Have you ever seen stuff like this? This just pisses me off. Like, I just want to leave, or I just want to throw something at the presenter when I see stuff like, this is PDF stuff, this is email stuff, this is not for presentation. And the worst thing is, if somebody starts to read this, one by one, like, no, don't do that. The other part is like, you've probably seen this happen. Tomato. The tomato, see pronunciation, is the edible, often red, fruit or berry of the plant Solanum lycopersicum, commonly known as a tomato plant. The plant belongs to the nightshade family Solanaceae. The species originated in South America. The Nahuatl Aztec language word, okay, you get the point, right? Have you ever seen a presentation like this? Especially in universities and schools, you see these all the time, and it's horrible. If I would, and of course, you have the source here, the Wikipedia, and that's good. I would say this is the only good part about this slide, is that it has the source. So if somebody's interested, they can go and check it out themselves, because that's the purpose of these sources. How I would present a tomato would be obviously like this. Then, yes, this is how it's spelled. Its origin name, you can take a picture if you want to. That's the family. The original name is tomatl. It comes from Nahuatl, which is a South American language. And the Spaniards, when they came in the 1500s, they renamed it tomate, tomato, and it means the swelling fruit. Did you know that tomato is a fruit, actually, and not a vegetable? Who knew that tomato is a vegetable? No, sorry, a tomato. I was just testing you. So you learn something new every single day. Which one was more engaging, right? It's about the same information, and of course, in the end, I'll put this. So you can take a picture, you can go and check it out later on. And if it would be even longer, then I would use a URL compriser or a kind of, shortener. So less is more. That's the most important thing. You want to be contrasting, but not chafing. Chafing means like rubbing, annoying, irritating, So you want to have a contrast, and as you see in this presentation and all of the good ones out there, is that there's maybe two colors, contrasting colors. That's about it. That's everything you need. You need a headline and you need a text. That's it. Okay? Have you ever seen something like this? It says motorcycles. I used to see these all the time, like in the end of 90s, early 2000s. I've been in the business for a while, so I've seen. And sometimes they even had like a dollar sign that was rotating or stuff like that. Like on web pages, you remember web pages back in the 90s? Where there's like all these horrible GIFs and all this strange stuff. Fortunately, we've gotten away from it. So, and then stuff like this, where you have like this long URL that nobody's ever gonna, type in, with a lot of numbers and symbols and things like that. So especially if you have a long URL, use a bit URL or like a bit LI shortener to get that message across. There is a discussion of which of these is more pleasant. There's a discussion of which one is more effective. So who likes this one? Raise your hand. Who likes this one? Raise your hand. C, point made. In computer, yes?
If you have that one and you put yellow on it,
yes.
People who see bad, they see it. But if you have the white one with the black text, they don't see anything.
I learn something new every day. Thank you so much. Great. So if you put yellow on black, it will be visible for people who see bad. If it's white, they can't see it. It's because of the contrast. And that's the reason why I don't generally like this, because if you look at a white picture with black text, you kind of have to zone out the white, and you're looking into a hole. While when you're looking on a black, you don't have to notice them. You have to focus on that, and you're just focusing on the stuff. But thank you really much. That was amazing. I'm going to put that in for next one. And it's also more ecological for the projectors. As a producer, I'm thinking about, the house as well, because if we're blasting white all day long, it's going to burn the light a lot sooner. So those are things that we also take into consideration. And more in design, we're going towards a black background, because it's the protecting the eyes. If you look at the white background in the night, it's going to be straining for your eyes. So you want to take down that strain by putting a black. But we had this conversation earlier today with Kane and Alessia, and it's also from a sales perspective, it is better to be a little bit chafing. Right? It's a little bit, you want to have that irritation, but it's okay to do as long as you know what you're doing. And think ecological with your presentations, and especially if you're using a lot of videos, a lot of big pictures, if you know megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, the term or the sizes of presentations can be sometimes 10 gigabytes. And if I'm getting that presentation as a producer, 10 minutes or 5 minutes before somebody goes up, I might not be able to have time to shift it over, or I might actually run out of space. If I'm getting 20 of them, I might actually run out of space, or on a thumb drive. So all of that hassle, so try to make it as ecological as possible. This is full HD, which is 1920 times 1080 pixels. That's the biggest image you'll ever need in a presentation. So you don't need to have pictures that are bigger. I've actually received pictures that are made for printing. So just be aware when you're creating your presentation to try to squeeze it down as much as possible. It's also ecological, in general, digital ecology. In Keynote, there's a feature called Reduce File Size, and this is actually this exact presentation. It was 286 megs, and now it's 128, so it's half the size. And it also takes care of all of the images. PowerPoint has a similar one. It's called Compressed Pictures. And you can choose the fidelity, how big it is. And usually it looks really good. Make it personal. This is stock photo, which is awesome to use. But does it make it different if it looks like this? You can use a picture that's taken by you, or if you're a narcissist like me, then you're in the picture. But it makes a huge difference because you can convey this into the story. And this is actually my good friend Paula Ojansuu, Pao. She took this picture many years ago, and when I was young and beautiful. Now I'm just and so you can intertwine it into your story, into your presentation, what kind of pictures you're using. And you want to direct and control focus. You've noticed that I don't allow you to see all of this stuff at the same time. right? So I'm using the features in the presentation software to control your focus, because I want your focus to be here. Every time, and I see this on the production table as well all the time, whenever I put some new information on or somebody clicks, your focus goes to that information for 20, 30 seconds because everybody takes their phone out and takes a picture. During that time, you're not listening, you're not here. So you want to be able to control that focus at all time. And all of this candy, I know there's a lot of cool features in PowerPoint. There's a lot of even more cooler features like transitions and effects in Keynote. General rule of thumb is that the worse you are as a speaker, the more you're going to use those. The better you are as a speaker, the less you need to use those. You can use them. There are effects, but if you're going to put in something every single slide, you saw Vince's presentation this morning. A lot of that stuff was in here. I didn't create that slide, but it was one from Industry Rockstar who created that slide according to these principles, which we haven't communicated. We're just using, the designers are using the same principles. He put in quite a lot of these effects on that edge. I wouldn't put more, but that was okay, right? It was a cool presentation. And you can use those to emphasize certain things, but don't trust them and don't kind of use them as crutches. Use them here and there sparingly. So don't use stuff like this. No, just don't. Even though they're there, just don't use them. And not transitions like this, just like, no, please. Please, God, no. No, and whatever you do, please don't use stuff like this. Okay? Can we make a deal that you won't use stuff like this, at least not too much? Thank you. Okay, so candy is last season. And the final part is how you deliver your presentation. I run big events all around the world, and even the one that we spoke about earlier today with 7,500 people, they have the same problems. Delivering content, even professional speakers have issues with this. And in the next part, we're going to go a little bit deeper into this, but just skimming through what it's about, is that you need to deliver in the right file format. When you go somewhere to talk, you need to figure out and know what software they're using. So if you're using Keynote and they're using PowerPoint, you're exporting your Mac Keynote into Windows PowerPoint, you might run into trouble with fonts, with layouts, with transitions and things like that. So you need to be aware. The safest way that we did with Jenny, who liked Jenny earlier today, wasn't she awesome? She's Finn, you know. She's got it. She's an amazing speaker. So what we did with her is we extracted her PDF. She gave me a PDF, and then we extracted the pictures and then put it back into a Keynote. That way, she would be able also to see the current slide and the next slide. And that's something you want to have. I'm not having it right now, but I'm a pro, so I can handle it. But it's tricky, because even though I know my presentation, I'd like to see the next slide so I know how to gauge it and when to go. Okay? But that's the trick you can do if you're concerned about your fonts, if you're using special fonts or stuff like that. You export your PowerPoint or Keynote into pictures or your PDF or whatnot, and then you bring it back into Keynote as pictures, because then they're solid, there won't be any changes. Okay, you got this? Okay, cool. If you're using special fonts, you need to deliver them with your presentation on the thumb drive or the Dropbox link or whatever. If you're using special ones, you put them in the same folder with directions, install this, and then the people on the production table, they'll put it in, and then it should run smoothly. If you have special music, you need to be aware that the computer needs to be connected to a audio source, and it's not always, the computer on stage is not always connected. So this is again a conversation that you need to have when you go as a speaker or when you go anywhere to have a talk. You need to make sure that your technology works. You just say, I have music in my presentation. Is that okay? Can you play it? And they say yes or no, or then you figure it out somehow. The same goes with videos. If you have videos, and you also need to let them know if you want the lights to come down or things like that, so they can prepare for that, because they might not have access to the house lights. They might not have access to, it's going to be just light. So these are conversations that you need to have. And the final, most important thing is that you need to deliver on time. So if you deliver your stuff well in advance, the chance is higher everything runs smoothly. If you are speaking at a high-profile presentation or a conference like TED or similar like that, you want it to run smoothly. Yes, one question.
About copyright?
Copyright. We'll get into that in the next section. I just want to wrap this one up. This was the main things that I wanted to go through in this presentation about how to create the perfect presentation. Thank you so much. Cool. Okay, now it's just us. Now, this was my audition tape, so.